I'm hoping I'm in the right place, and I assume you're hoping that you're in the right place. Developing markets. I heard a speaker a couple years ago, I'm sure many of you have heard him at times, a great communicator by the name of Jim Rome. And he made the statement, if you're going to master any business, become really great, there's only probably 5 to 10 areas that you'll really have to get great at to become a giant in that industry. When that folks, that gave me hope. I'm thinking, well, if there's 30 or 40 areas, I might not could do that, but 5 to 10, I could probably do it. So here's what I did. I went across my hierarchy, and I would ask people, what are the areas that you would say that you've really got to be good at to be great in our business? And I found out that these 6 things that I'm fixing to cover showed up on everybody's list by far than any other areas. Number 1, they said you got to learn and be great and get good at prospecting. You got to learn to be good at getting appointments. Number 3, you had to learn to give a great presentation, whether it's recruiting presentation, security presentation, insurance presentation, or whatever. Number 4, you got to learn to close, meaning close them to the meeting, close them to come to an op meeting, close them to come to the convention, close them to go recruit, close them on the sale. Number 5, you got to get good at getting referrals. And 6, and certainly not last, you got to learn to get good at recruiting people. So once I got the 6, then I went through, and this would be a good exercise for you to try with your team. I said, rate yourself in a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being very good. How would you rate yourself in each of these 6 areas? And what I found out everywhere I went at, my people rated very high, great grades, 9, 10s, 8s. When it came to giving a presentation, our brand new people could destroy cash value. They could explain Rule of 72. They were really good at giving our asset management presentation. We found out closing. Man, even our brand new people could good at closing people on things. The areas that I saw that they were really weak in, medium in getting appointments. The area they were the most weak in was prospecting, getting referrals, and recruiting. And so I've spent a lot of time the last couple of years talking about the first area, and that is how to prospect, how to develop warm markets, because if you really understand that particular principle of our business, it ties so close in to the area of getting referrals and getting recruits. If you don't have warm markets, it's hard to recruit. It's hard to recruit from a cold market. So I'm going to spend the whole session here talking about just how to develop markets. One of the questions I've tried to figure out for years is, why is it our people don't make more money? Some of you have heard me give my liar talk. You know, are you a liar or are you lazy? People say, man, I'm working hard. And, and then I ask their ratios, and I get their ratios, and based on their ratios, they ought to be making a lot of money. So either they're lazy or else they lied to me about their ratios. Something's not wrong. Well, I found out there's a third possibility in there. There's a lot of our people, they're good, honest folks. They work hard, but the problem is they don't have anybody to call on. Here's the problem. Many of you are going to relate to this. You get in this business, you've spent an entire life. Maybe you're 30 years old when you join us. Maybe you've lived in that same town for 20 years, and you've spent a great year investing your life and developing friends. Then all of a sudden you come in and you go out and you call on that natural market, and you do a great job. We talk about referrals, but for some reason it doesn't sink in. And you don't get referrals. You think, I'm going to do it, but you don't do it. And one day you wake up in a very tough situation, folks. You have nobody to call on. And then all of a sudden you enter the wonderful world of cold calling. And that ends your career about that quick, Norman. Most of you say, man, if I got a cold call, count me out of here. I'm not that tough. Some people in the business are, but most people aren't. And that's when we lose them. Folks, that would be like a farmer who would go out and plant a bunch of crops, eat those crops, dig them up, reap the crops, eat them, and then never plant any more crops. Any farmer knows that if you don't plant new crops every year, you die. Well, what I see in our business, our people never plant new relationships. In fact, I hear people in PFS make this statement. He'll say, all my friends are in PFS. And that sounds like a great statement to make. Man, I'm committed. This is my life. This is my family. Well, folks, if all your friends are in PFS, you're in trouble, because you better get used to cold calling, because the people are already in PFS, they're already recruited, they already have insurance, they already have mutual funds, etc. So you can't do any good for them. They're already in. See, when I decide to do something, I have a list. I have my fishing buddies, my hunting buddies, my racquetball buddies, my handball buddies, my church buddies, my miscellaneous business friends, my friends from school, my PFS friends, my neighborhood friends. I just have list and list of people that I can attract from. I have never, that's a big word, but folks, I'll back it up, have never made a cold call since I've been in this business. And folks, we had one of the most exploding organizations. We grew to 400 folks in our first 2 years. When I started this bit, hired 26 people our first 2 months. And then from that, we exploded to 2,400 people within a 2-year period of time. Never did a cold call. A lot of you say, well, now, Mike, I'm not an extrovert. Folks, I'm not an extrovert. The things that I'm going to talk to you today apply to introverts. It's something that you can learn. It's something mechanical that you can learn to do. And I promise you can change your life if you'll begin to implement some of the things we're going to talk about. So we're going to work basically on developing new friends, developing new markets, working on how do you attract new markets. It can be learned. It's fun. And I promise you the results are 10 times, the percentages you get are 10 times better than you'll ever get from cold calling. Think for just a second. How did Art Williams build this company? Did he do a bunch of cold calling? Did he send out flyers and all this stuff I've seen people do? Folks, he didn't do that. Art Williams had the ability to attract people. He drew people to him. He built relationships with people. Art said you got to do 2 things to be a success. You got to be able to communicate with people and build relationships. He was the master, the best I've ever seen at doing those 2 things. Because he was loving people, he made people feel special. And because his ability to make people feel special, folks, he attracted people to him. He didn't have to go out and prospect all the time because people were coming to him. He was like a dadgum magnet. And that's what we want to talk about is how can you go about making people feel special and become a magnet? I have never read the book. Someone just mailed it to me when I was up in Ohio a couple weeks ago, spoke it, and I appreciate them doing it. And as soon as I'm finished with one I'm reading now, it's my next one on the list. But it's Dale Carnegie's book. I've heard it for years, How to Win Friends, Influence People. Never read it. But I read a quote in another book that was referring to his book. And he said this. This is a great quote. Made me think of Art Williams. The rare individual who honestly satisfied the heart hunger, come out the heart hunger to feel special. The person who does that will hold people in the palm of his hand, and even the undertaker will be sorry when he dies. You understand what he's saying? He said even the undertaker will be upset when this guy dies because he's so valuable. Why? Because he makes people feel special, because he's learned to fulfill that need that people have to feel special. Remember Art Williams used to say, when you see people, assume they have a neon flashing light on their chest saying, I want to feel special. Please make me feel special. And folks, if you can learn to do that, and we're going to talk about that, how you do that, folks, and I promise you, you will never have to cold call. You'll never have to worry about having folks to call on again. Let me give you a little history lesson on where I come from on this. Some of you have heard me talk before, but I spent my first years out of college. My degree was in accounting, but I never went into accounting. I went into the ministry instead and worked for a college ministry called Campus Crusade for Christ and spent 5 years with that ministry. Now, my first year, folks, all I did was basically cold call. Started out at Georgia Tech, in fact, right here in Atlanta. The first day of my day on the job, here's what my day consists of. We had a rule on the college campus that if you went to a dorm, if the door was open, you could go in and start a conversation with anybody in the room. If the door was shut, you were not allowed to interfere with that student. It was called soliciting if the door was shut. So I had to go around every day looking for open doors and walk in and introduce myself, tell them I'm with Campus Crusade for Christ. I'm talking to students about what it means to have a relationship with Jesus Christ and see if they were interested. Now, I was excited about what I was doing until one day, I'll never forget, I'm going out on campus, I'm going around looking for doors, and I hear somebody holler down the dorm, "Here he comes, shut your doors." And I hear this slam, 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 slam. Now, folks, if you're sensitive like I am, that hurt, and I had to stop back and evaluate what was I doing. And I had to decide, is it my method or my message that is offending the people? And I came to the conclusion it was not my message because I saw too much response from the message, but the method I was using. Nobody likes cold callers. Nobody likes somebody just walking in their door and blasting in. Let me ask you this. If you go to a store today and you see two bodies leaning like this, who's the salesman? Right? This guy. And it's like, what do you want? Get away from me. And that's the problem for a lot of our folks in PFS. They haven't ever learned to deal with people on this relationship versus this relationship. And we want to talk about how to do that. Now, here's what I had to change back then. And it began to prepare me great for this business. About that time, I got transferred out to Texas Tech, and I said, I'm going to do things different out here. I don't want to be fungus among us. I want people to be excited about having Mike Tuttle around. And so I've met the few people that I basically knew and enlisted them, for better terminology, to be a part-timer to work for me, just like we do in this business. And I said, all I want you to do is kind of let me hang around with you and introduce me to some of your friends. And he said, well, we're often over here around lunchtime. And so I would get in the dorm at Weymouth Dorm, because I knew students would come in through, and all that part-timer, for lack of a better term, just a student, we'll call him part-timer because I did the same in this business. So all I want you to do is introduce me to somebody. So he would come through going to lunch and said, "Hey, Mike, by the way, I want you to meet Joe Wilson here." I said, "Hi, Joe, how you doing?" Joe would leave. Now, here's some of the principles, folks. Write down everything you can about Joe Wilson. Why? To help you memorize his name, anything that can relate to him and his name. Study Joe Pomeria. Folks, I watched him this morning knowing names. He's a master at names. That's one of the reasons he's so successful. Art Williams was a master at names, one of the reasons he was so successful. And I would do everything I can. Why? Because your name is important to you. And when that student would come back through, I'd put in my notes, tall, blonde-haired guy, friend of Joe, Tom's. And so when Joe would come through, I'd say, "Hi, Joe Wilson, how was lunch?" And just the fact that I took the time to learn his name, what did that communicate to him? That I saw him as special. That I saw him as someone that was valuable. Why? Because I would invest my time to learn his name. Then I would call my part-timer, my student, say, "Tell me everything you can know about Joe. What does he study? Where's he from? Why? I'm looking for ways I can identify with this guy." And so I would be there every day, and as he would come through, I'd say, "Joe, hey, I understand you're from Longview, Texas. You know such and such. I'm developing that network. I'm developing confidence that is comfortable to speak with me." And I'd find out he's taking calculus. "How's that test coming? Here you got a big test." All I'm doing, folks, is showing an interest in that guy. We're not like this, we're like this. And I learned to chit-chat with him. And then one day he would come by and I'd say, "Hey, Joe, has Tom ever told you what I do over here?" He said, "No, I just know you're down here always meeting with students around lunchtime." I said, "Well, I'm with Campus Crusade for Christ, and I meet with students and talk to them about what it means to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I know you're busy, but I'd like to give you a little article here. And when you get a moment, read it. And I'd like to stop by sometime when you got a moment and get your opinion on it, see what you think about it." Now, is he going to tell me no? Why? Because we become a friend. I have planted new crops. He's a relationship. Just like my old friends wouldn't have done it, he would not do it because he's now a friend. He understands everybody does that. He understands I met with Humpteen G and other people. It's normal. It's ordinary. And see, folks, when I got in this business, that's what I did. I met the few people I knew that were part-timers, hired them. And I'd go hang out with them. I said, "All I want you to do is introduce me to folks." And I got to know everything I could about those people. And then I would start investing in those people's lives and get appointments with them. Now, during this time, as I began to change my whole approach to ministry that I later on used for the same when I was building this business, that of using part-timers to introduce me to people and taking time to invest in those people, get to know their names, showing interest in them, I came across an experiment. As I've said every time I ever talk about this, folks, there's nothing I know that I can give you that I can absolutely guarantee you will absolutely change your life if you do what I'm fixing to share. Unfortunately, most of you aren't going to do this. I was coming on the plane with Martin Sinise out here, and I was talking. I said, "It's amazing why people come to these events, because most of you will come all week to this and not go back and change one thing about your life. You come in here, all these great speakers, they're going to give you all this great input, and yet you don't do any of it. Well, why waste your time if you're not going to implement any of it? I mean, if you come to learn something and somebody shows you something, why not go back and implement it? It's called the Great 30-Day Experiment. Some religious founding father started this. I don't know who, John Wesley, somebody, doesn't matter. But here's the essence of the 30-day experiment. Art Williams has said, and all other great people always said, if you do anything for 30 days, it'll change your life. This will change your life. For 30 days, do this. It says spend some time every day for 30 days in prayer. Hopefully you're already doing that. Then 30 days every day writing a little bit from the Scriptures. Hopefully you're doing that. But here was the real kicker. It says spend 30 days every day doing one unselfish act for somebody else. And get a diary and record their response. Now, folks, that sounds easy till you try it. You're not supposed to do 5 nice acts one day and none for 5. Every day, get in the habit of looking for something special, some unselfish deed you can do for someone else and record their response. It's like the little boy comes in, he's bloody and blue, and his dad says, "What's the matter, son?" He said, "Well, I tried to help this little old lady cross the street." He said, "Why are you bleeding?" He said, "Well, she didn't want to go." Well, that's how hard it is sometimes in this world we live in to try to find something unselfish to do for some folks. But get involved and commit to doing it and record their response. Now, here's some of the lessons I learned. Then I'm going to show you how to apply this to our business. The first lesson I found is the asking is just as good as the doing. What I mean by that? Well, most of the time when I ask now to do unselfish acts for someone, I don't get a chance to do it. For some reason, it's already been handled or whatever. But just the fact that I would volunteer something valuable to me, my time, and invest to help them with an unpleasant task has a profound effect upon people. And then later on, if you ever need an appointment with them, folks, I promise you, they won't ask you, "What is it?" Give you an example. Back then, when I was doing this experiment, one of the girls that worked for me with Crusade, we had to send out a newsletter, about 300 people. I hate sticking envelopes, licking stamps and licking envelopes. But I called her up that night. I said, "Patricia, listen, I got some free time. I wanted to come over this evening and help you do your newsletter." She said, Mike, I was her boss, so to speak. She said, I can't believe you would call. She said, last night, a couple of the girls from the campus came over and helped me do that. I've already got it out. But she said, I can't tell you, I've never had a campus director in all my career of Crusade ever offer to do that. Now, folks, what did that do to my relationship with her? See, I could call her wherever she is in the world tonight and say, hey, Pat, Tricia, got something I want to share with you about. Can I have lunch with you? She can ask me, what is it? No more than you didn't ask that to your best friend when he called you. If Art Williams called you tonight and said, can I have lunch with you? You say, well, what is it, Art? You're not going to ask that. If your best friend's going, no, why? Because there's a relationship there. Folks, I found out it took so little to develop that relationship. Just get involved and say, I want to invest, I want to do something. Here's the other principle. The more unpleasant the task, the more impact it has. What's something really gross? Moving, right? Had a friend the other day, I don't know him that well. Now, folks, you don't just give to get. This guy just got out of prison. I met him since then. He's a good friend of mine, and I met him through hunting and stuff. And he's supposedly gotten his life squared away, and I found out he was moving. And I did everything I can to try to get him to let me know where he is. I said, I want to come help you. But, folks, even though I didn't get a chance to do it, just the fact that I was probably his only friend that says, I want to come and help, and I was one of his new friends. He just met me. Now, why would I want to do that? Because I saw from doing experiments some many, many years ago the impact it had on people's lives when I got involved. The other principle I learned is the value, folks, when you're out there and doing this sort of thing, the value of writing notes. One of the things that I got involved back then doing is one night I was sitting there and I'm trying to think of something to do. I'm just working so hard. I'm thinking, what can I possibly do? And I said, well, I'm going to write notes tonight to take 5 people and really tell them how much I appreciate them. Now, in this experiment, it says record their response. Well, all of a sudden, I'm out there, and I'm writing these notes to one guy, Jimmy Hardy, who was a pastor. Dear Jimmy, just want you to know I appreciate you, love you, the ministry you've had in my life. And back then, they had these old big red barrel pens. I sent him one in the mail with the letter. Said, a guy with a big heart ought to have a big pen to write with. And record their response. Folks, when I saw that guy next week, you would have thought I sent him $1 million. What kind of letters do most pastors normally get? Your sermon stunk, you're bad, this problem, that problem. And all of a sudden, here was someone saying, you're special. Now, was I given to get? No, but then after I left Crusade, 2 years after that, I'm back out in Lubbock. Guess who I called? Jimmy, Mike Tuttle. I'm in town, want to have lunch. Got someone to share with you, see what you think about it. Is he going to ask me, what is it? Why? Because I invested in his life. Another guy, Jack Dale, the golden voice at KFYO, does all the broadcasts for Texas Tech football team. That night back then, I wrote him a letter. He was one of those guys. Jack, Mike Tuttle, just want you to know I appreciate you, da-da-da-da-da. Here's a big pen. For a guy with a big heart, ought to have a big pen to write with. Hope you're having a great day. Record their response. I saw him next week. Man, Mike, nobody's ever done that. I can't tell you what that meant to me. Given to get? No. I'm not in sales or anything. I just want to invest my life. I want to see what impact would it have if I invested my life in people. But several years later, when I'm at this company, I go out there, Jack Dale, Mike Tuttle, let's have lunch. Got someone to share with you. See what you think about it. So you can ask me, what is it? No. Why? I've invested in his life. I begin to find the value of writing notes. Another thing I found out is how fun it is, folks, to make people feel special. I mean, to see that it takes so little, but you get so much back watching the joy you can bring in people's lives. One of my guys, Martin Sinise, was telling me this the other day. He's implemented so much of this in his own business at this point. He said, Mike, we took some people for a camp out like you'd recommend. I'm going to talk about in a minute. And as we were coming to this state park, there was this elderly lady there. And she made the comment that this was her last day on job. She was retiring. It was going to be her 65th birthday. She's been on the job for 30-some-odd years or whatever. Now, Martin had never seen this lady before, but from doing this experiment, you look for reasons to make people feel special. He went back into town, brought some roses, and brought her to her and said, hey, this is a special day in your life, and I just want to add a little something extra sunshine into your life today. He said, this lady's crying, bawling. I mean, she just can't believe that this total stranger would do that. Now, what did it cost? A couple bucks? What's he given to get? He's not fixing to sell this 65-year-old elderly lady. But he began to see there's such joy in making people feel special. And see, I believe that stuff comes back. The Bible says the more you sow, the more you reap. Who knows? Maybe next week her son's talking about needing a job. And she said, hey, I met this nice young guy, gave me some flowers. You ought to call him. I don't know how it's going to come back, but it will. There's just a principle involved there. Another principle I learned back then is look for reasons to contact people. Think about that for a second. That's why when you start meeting with a client, don't worry about having to close him on the second deal. The more times you see him, the greater chance you have to build a relationship. The more you find about him, the more he gets comfortable, the more you've got a chance of having an eternal relationship with that guy versus a one-time sale relationship. Think about it, guys, when you were in college and you were falling in love with Sally Sorority. And she's in English class with you, but so is your dummy roommate, Joe, right? You missed class that day. Joe's in there doing his English assignment. Do you ask Joe what was the assignment? No. Who do you do? What do? You go out in a payphone back then, cross the hall and call Sally and say, Sally, I missed English. Could you tell me what the assignment is? Now, why would you go through all that hassle when you didn't ask Joe? Because you're not trying to develop a relationship with Joe. You're trying to do one with Sally, and you look for any possible reason you can to contact her, to let her know there's an interest, that you value her. Same way in this business, folks. Now, let's talk about how I've been able to apply some of this, just some practical applications, specific. I'm going to give you some specifics as well as just some generalities, things that you can do. One I've had fun for years, typical example. One day my kids tried to run a sock through our Kirby vacuum cleaner. Of course, that doesn't work, so it breaks, so I have to take it over to see about getting it repaired. So I plan over there taking it and leaving it for a month and knowing it probably won't be fixed. The guy says, I'll fix it while you wait. A couple minutes, he comes out, it's fixed. I said, what I charge you? He said, nothing. Now, if you know anything about vacuum cleaner, folks, you realize I was seeing a miracle firsthand there. So now, what do my guys normally do? They jump on him just like this, right? What did I do? I said, man, I appreciate it, thanked him, went home from the value of learning notes from experiment I did years ago, from learning the value of writing notes, the value of making people feel special. I write a note to the company. And I said, dear Mr. Balls, I don't know where you found Steve, but he is incredible. The other day we had a sock in our Kirby. He fixed it on the spot, wouldn't even let us charge it. His attitude, his servant. I said, man, I don't know what you're paying this kid, but it's not enough. He's a good guy. Well, was I given to get? I didn't have a base shop at the time. But from the experiment, I said, I just want to be a part of the solution. I want to be a part of making people feel special. So about 2 months later, one of my guys come through. Mike, I don't have anybody to call on. No market. Well, probably because you don't plant any new seeds, right? I said, here, let me call some of mine. Hey, Steve, Mike Tuttle, do you remember me, the guy with the vacuum and the sock and the Kirby? Oh, do I, Mr. Tuttle? I can't believe you wrote that letter to my boss. You're the first customer I've ever had to do something like that for me. I tell you, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Well, I said, Steve, obviously I think you're special or else I wouldn't have taken time to write that note. I said, tell me something. I've got a sneaky feeling they're not paying you anywhere near what you're worth. Am I right or wrong? Now, that's a loaded question. I've never had but one answer to that question. Oh, yeah, I think I'm worth more. I said, well, look, Steve, I don't know if you're interested in part-time job work or even maybe a career change. But based on what I've seen of you, I think you'd be great at what I do. And I'm in the process of expanding my business, and I would cherish the chance to have lunch with you one day and share with you what we're doing and see if there might be a possible fit. Even if it's not for you, you would know the kind of people I'm looking for. Can I buy your lunch Tuesday or Wednesday? Now, what's he going to say, folks? Now, was I an extrovert? All I did was take a broken Kirby into a vacuum place, get it fixed, and saw that here's a guy that gives a rip about people, is not trying to rip off people, he's a giver, and I've got enough sense to distinguish between the givers and takers in life. And this guy is a giver, and I want to recognize givers. And from doing a simple experiment years ago, I learned to write notes. Now, see, the reason I do that is once I meet a stranger, I want to make a friend out of him because I don't like going to meeting strangers. When I get on an airplane, I want to sit by myself. Some of my guys like Josh Hubman, they get on the plane when the stewardess gets to announcements, they take over the PA system and have an op meeting in the plane. Well, that stuff embarrasses me. That's not me. I'm very much an introvert. I'm just kind of often doing my own thing. But see, it didn't take any embarrassment or anything to just write a note. I did that in the quiet of my own office. Another guy, one day I'm playing racquetball, and this guy knocks on the door. Can I play with you guys? Sure, hop in. Well, it's one of these guys you just like, nice guy. Well, see, I was not the extrovert. All I'm doing is playing ball. Guy says, can you play? Sure. So all of a sudden, I got enough sense to write his name, look for reasons to contact people. So I call and say, hey, can we play again? His secretary says he's not here. His wife just had a baby. Great reason to contact somebody, right? So I sit down. I want to be known as different in his life. I want to be a different kind of person that he's ever met. So I write him a letter. I said, ma'am, could you give me his address? Dear buddy, congratulations on your new baby daughter. Hope the mom and baby's doing good. I know how excited you must be. Hey, when things get back to normal, give us a call. Let's play some ball. Now, folks, what kind of impact do you think they had on his life? His own family probably didn't write a note, let alone some friend he's met once in his life on a racquetball court. Was I being an expert? No, but I learned from an experiment the value of impacting people's lives and writing notes. So guess who calls me a couple days later? Hey, man, I appreciate the note. Let's play ball. So then about a month later, one of my guys, I don't have anybody to call on. Well, hey, let's call one of my guys. So I just go through one of my lists. Buddy, Mike Tuttle. Hey, buddy, I've never had a chance to share with you what I do, and I really don't really know what you do. But, I'm in the process of expanding my business. Don't know if you'd ever be interested in some part-time income or even maybe a career change. But based on what little bit I've seen of you, I think you would be great in my business. And I really cherish the chance to have lunch and sit down and share the possibilities of our company with you. And, even if it's not for you, you would at least know the kind of person I'm looking for. How about Tuesday or Wednesday? Which would be best for you? Now, is he going to tell me no? Now, are we going in like this? We're going in like this. Why? Because I took about that long to show him that I was different, and I wanted to make him feel special and be different in his life. Folks, get in the habit. Now, one of the things I learned from that experiment, because every day for 30 days you're looking for something to do. So what happens? You become very aware of people who have needs around you. Normally, if you see somebody's grass needing cut, you don't think about it. All of a sudden, maybe I'm thinking, maybe I could cut his grass. I'm looking for opportunities, right? Well, now, as a result of doing that experiment, every day of my life, folks, I'm writing little notes in my pocket saying, write this guy a note, do this, offer to do this. Well, one day at church, I'm sitting there about this time. And I noticed this little guy in our church. Now, folks, I hate this word because there's really no such a thing, but you know what I'm talking about. If there was ever a nobody, this guy would be a nobody. Now, we know there's no such thing as a nobody, but if there was, this guy would be one. And he's a guy, that little guy, and he just never says two words. Nobody even knows he's a member of our church, but yet he's up there and does this technical work with the lights and all that stuff, PA systems. I don't know what he does, but I know he never gets any recognition, has never got any in his life, and so I thought, that guy needs some encouragement. He's got that neon light saying, would somebody make me feel special just for once in my life? Would somebody make me feel good? So I thought, hey, I could do that. Don't have to be an expert. So I went home and wrote him a note. Dear Bob, I just want you to know I watch you year in and year out, the faithfulness you have in our church, and I wish we had a church full of people like you. Man, it's just great knowing that we can always count on you. You're always faithful, and I know you have a job that you don't get much thanks, but I want you to know I really appreciate it. Record their response. I saw him next week. He's walking around like a little banty rooster, Now, see, I didn't have a base shop. I'm not trying to give to get, but I learned the value of investing. Then all of a sudden I hired Josh Huffman. A lot of you know Josh. One of the first people Josh called on was Bob. He said, Mike, that had to be the easiest sell I've ever made. When I told him I had gone to work with you, he almost begged me to come over and fill an app on him. He said, man, had you plowed the ground with that guy? Well, all I did was invest in his life and make him feel special. Teachers. Now, folks, think in your life, who are the people you know right now that probably need some encouragement? This would be a great exercise you do this weekend. All weekend, think of some people in your life. Who would be some people? Your wife, for one, or your husband might need some. What about teachers, coaches? Maybe you've had a rotten season for your football coach, your basketball coach. Teachers, I love to encourage teachers. I thought the other day I took some little boys hunting, and they were fussing about one teacher, and I said, well, it's a shame that teachers give you a report card. Why can't we ever give them a report card? Wouldn't that be fun? And I said, by this, guys, if you had to give a teacher a report card, who would you rate the highest? They said, oh, Dennis Saffel by far. He would get an A. Every kid agreed to that. So what did I do? From doing an experiment for many years ago, I went back and said, Dennis, Mike Tuttle, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the impact you've had on the life of my son and the other kids. I just want you to know, when I asked the kids today to grade the teachers, you received the highest grade. They hold you in such high esteem. It's a shame we don't have more teachers like you in America's public in the school system today. Record their response. Well, I haven't heard from him. The other night I had that reason to call him on the phone. He was fumbling over himself to thank me for that note. Now, folks, I don't have a base shop right now, but see, I've never made a cold call, but my list keeps growing. I guarantee he'd be on my list right now. If I start a group tomorrow, I guarantee he's going to be one of the first I'm going to call on. Why? Because I've invested in his life. Just have lunch with some strangers. Ever right now, one of you have a list of people that you're supposed to know but don't know. For instance, here's one we did a while back. Most of you are probably involved in some kind of church, but I guarantee you don't know most of the people. Most people in church don't know who they're sitting to. It's a shame, but the cold and impersonal world we live in, people don't know their neighbors. They don't know anybody. So Steph and I have always done a lot of job about having people out to our house for lunches, but we just gotten a little slack. We've been so busy teaching classes at church. So here a while back, I said, let's just invite some folks, but let's make sure we don't know any of them. So at random, I just go through the church list. Don't know that guy. Don't know nothing about him. Called him up, said, hey, I'm Mike Tuttle. We go to church together. I feel bad. There's got to be so many folks in our church that we don't know. We invited several folks. Want to know if you could join us for lunch Sunday after church. Well, of course. That's a very easy deal. That's a no-brainer. So they came by. Now, let me show you what happens. One guy comes, finds about 30 years old, just had twin boys. Is he in the right market or what? The other guy found out his wife is going to head up our vacation Bible school that summer, so she will know every parent who has kids in our church. That'd be a pretty good contact, I would think. Third guy is a football coach and also he's about 30 years old, got a couple kids, and also has a part-time camping ministry. And the fourth guy is a retired military guy, neat guy. Now, reason I share this story, here's what was interesting. We're sitting here talking with these four, and all of a sudden one of them says, well, now, what part of Dallas do you live in? The guy says, well, I live in Carrollton. The guy says, well, I live in Carrollton. Oh, really? What street? Meadfoot or whatever. That's the street I'm on. Which house do you live in? We live in the yellow one. He said, we live 2 houses down. Now, folks, they had lived 2 houses apart for 4 years, had been a member of the same church for 2 years, and had never met. Now, folks, we laugh, but that's a commentary on our society today. And see, the guy that's got enough sense to understand that and will get out and kind of stir the pot, he's the guy that's going to get the gold. See, they were very appreciative that I took the initiative to get them together and say, hey, let's meet each other. It was a very non-threatening. All we did was hamburgers or something. But now, let me ask you this. If I had a base shop, you think I'd go get a appointment with those folks? It would be like shooting fish in a barrel. It would be a no-brainer, folks. Martin Sneese did a great deal the other day. He's heard me talk about these things. So he did this on his initiative last year. He went to his pastor. Said, Pastor, I'd like to put on a Valentine banquet. I will totally fund it, cook it, prepare it, do the entertainment the whole night, and you don't have to touch anything. But all of a sudden, guess what, folks? He just picked up, I forget how many warm new markets last year. So he decided to do it again this year. And they decided to do it even a little nicer, and they charged just a couple bucks, $3 or $4, very minimum cost. I heard about it. I got excited. I said, Martin, do this. Here'd be a great idea. What don't you have all the husbands turn in a reason why they think their wife ought to win Valentine of the Year. Why they think their wife is special, and I'll donate a night stay at the Dolphins Hotel, a nice hotel in Dallas, and I also will donate dinner at a steakhouse for 2 of them. I wish you could have been there, folks. Now, Martin had his own men come over and do the babysitting, so folks didn't have to worry about babysitting. He prepared the meal, just charged a little bit for it. He ate a lot of the cost himself. Folks, he had a packed church, folks. He emceed it. They played the old dating game, or a newlywed game, rather. They did then they had these 3 top winners come up and read why they thought their wife was special. Man, there was not a dry tear in the house. Now, Martin's emceeing all this, and I'm sitting there seeing my RVP up there, and he's only been in that church for about 1.5 years. And all of a sudden, he's emceeing it, put on the program, and they see him as the one donating the gifts. I said, don't tell them it's for me, just tell them you donate it. And all of a sudden, folks, you understand how many contacts he's got? Why? Because he's invested in something. What a great prospecting tool. One of the things we've done, folks, is a great idea to do. Let me go back to one other thing. Folks, when you had those people over to your house, those 4 couples, learn this also. Write them a note and thank you. It's amazing how many people I invite to our house that never send us a thank you note. People just don't give thanks anymore, it seems like. But I guarantee I do. And I thank them. I wrote every couple there and said, hey, I know y'all were busy. I just want you to know how much it meant for Steph and I for you to take time out of your schedule to come and have supper with us. It was so nice fun getting to meet you and your wife and kids. I want you to know we look forward to servicing our Lord together in the church with you there. Folks, I guarantee you, when you're the host, invites, and then you send the guest a card thanking them for coming, I guarantee you, folks, it puts things in a different perspective. Here's a great thing you can do. Now, understand, all these things I'm talking about keeps you in the right market. Do a father-son, father-daughter campout. Because some of these things, you know, I may not have the money to do a banquet. This won't cost you a dime. Go to a state park, a city park, and just take your kids out for a campout. But before you go, get the word out to your friends, your neighbors. Say, hey, dads, when's the last time you took your kid camping? No wives allowed, just us dads. We need to spend some time with our kids, so let's go. Folks, we used to do that. It was incredible how many people started showing up for those. Martin Sneese did that. The lady I was talking about that he gave the flowers to at the park. He said, Mike, it was the easiest thing I ever did. It took no planning because all you do is plan for the food for you and your son. And he said, here, all these other dads are coming. Now, why is that special? Because most people don't plan. We're lazy. We procrastinate. But every dad out there saying, you know, I know I really need to spend some time with my kids, but, you know, what would I do with them? Go to a movie again? Boring. What are we going to do? And all of a sudden, somebody comes with this idea and says, this is the weekend. Show up at this time. Bring your own food. It is a no-brainer. But take your camera with you and take some pictures. Folks, we've had some of the greatest camp out deals, and they just start bringing their friends and neighbors. I don't know most of the people that end up coming to these things. And did this when our kids were small. But I would take pictures and get their names. Now, I would send those pictures back to them with a note. Dear John, I appreciate you coming to the camp out. It was great fun meeting you. Here's a picture. Thought you might enjoy these pictures of you and your kids. And here's where your kid fell out of the boat and whatever. Now, see, if I had a base shop, though, you know what I'd be doing? I'd hand deliver those. I'd call Martin up and say, Martin, this is Mike Tuttle. I am over by your office. I got some pictures of your son. I wanted to drop them by. If you got to say, I want to stop them by and give them to you. I think you'll really enjoy them. I go into his office, chit-chat with him. Hey, how long you been at this company? What do you do here? That's great. Da-da-da. See, we're like this. We're like this. I'm asking about him. I'm giving him something. I'm giving him pictures. We laugh about the pictures, laugh about the camp out, talk about when we're going to do it again. Then as I'm leaving, I say, by the way, John, you know, I've got to run because I don't want this. I want this. I'm taking the pressure off. I said, you know, I'm in the process of expanding my business. And you know what I've seen of you? I think you'd be great at my business. I don't know if you've ever been interested in part-time income or maybe in a career change. But I would cherish the chance to have lunch or breakfast with you one day and sit down and share with you what I do and see if there might be a possible fit. And you know, even if it's not for you, you would know the kind of person I'd be looking for. Can I buy you breakfast maybe? How about Wednesday this week, or would lunch be better? Now, what's he going to tell me? I've invited him to do something that he needed to be doing. I've got him out there spending time with his kids. I've taken pictures. He shows I'm different. I'm out there delivering the pictures. And all I'm saying is, hey, would you just look at this? It may not be for you, but you might even know somebody. I'm about as harmless can be. Folks, I have never gotten no's in this business. My skin is too sensitive. I don't know how some of you guys do all this cold calling to get all these no's. If I get one no, it destroys me. I have to come home. The wife has to get the kids out. They sing Hail to the Chief, you're great and wonderful, and pump me back up. But see, I'm going to play with a stacked deck. I'm going to make sure when I go and ask that guy for an appointment that there's a reason that he wants to be with me. Why? Because I've invested. I've made him feel special. He thinks he's wonderful because why else would I, a business guy like me, take time to take him and his kids camping, take pictures, and come out and hand deliver those pictures? He sees a difference, folks. Here's something you can do, and I learned this one from my old whole life salesman. Side selling garbage, folks. I saw him one time before I knew what a crook he was. It was a smart deal. This is something every one of you in this room can do that will pay you great dividends. He had just moved into a neighborhood. It was kind of a new neighborhood, track home type place. And he and his wife and kids went door to door and said, hi, I'm Lonnie Johnson, and we live on such and such house. And we don't know our neighbors, and we're going to compile a little neighborhood directory, and we'll know if we could ask you a few questions. Your name, your wife's name, your kids' names, where do they go to school, where do you work, where do you go to church, where do you go to college, what are your hobbies, what are your interests? It was just a fun deal. And he says, now, if you'll fill this out for me, I'll put it in a binder and provide it for the entire neighborhood. Now, is that a service or what? Now, guess what? When it was passed out, whose picture was on the front page? Lonnie and his family, right? And, folks, I guarantee you, he probably ended up selling every family in that neighborhood a cash, trash value life insurance policy for the simple reason that he was willing to invest and provide a service to those people, folks. Great concept out there. Now, understand, let me just share an example here. Understand when you invest in people and you begin to feel needs in their life, that's when people want to respond to you. Remember we talked about how to become an attractor of men, where people want to be with you, like Art Williams, the way he was able to recruit folks. He didn't have to give a big recruiting speech. There was something about Art that you just wanted to go to work for him. Learn to be that kind of person. Here's a typical example. I guess just a couple years ago, I'm buying a new vehicle. And I'd gone way across town to find the particular one I was looking for. It was hunting season. I was needing a new Suburban, and they'd just come in. So I go way over there and met this guy, a salesman. And he gets through writing the sale. It was kind of a lay-down sale for him. I knew they had the vehicle. I just went there and bought it. And just as I'm wrapping up the papers, I said, by the way, how long have you been doing this? He says, well, I just been doing it about a year. He said, I was in real estate for years, but he said, all of a sudden, he said, my daughter married this professional football player. 6 months after the wedding, they found out he had cancer in one of his legs. And we started going to all these people to try to get the cancer solved. They had to amputate the leg. Thought we had the cancer. Then it spread through his body. And a couple years later, he died. For 3 years, I shut down my business and traveled all over the world looking for doctors trying to save my daughter's husband. Devastated us. And I'm just now started selling trucks just to cars to kind of get my feet back on the ground. Now, I'm leaving. I've been on there a long time. And I said, look, sir, there's two things I really need to talk to you about, and I don't have time to do it right now. I would really cherish the chance to have lunch or breakfast with you one day this week and share with you some stuff. Could I do that? He said, you bet. How about lunch tomorrow? So I'd drive all the way across town. We'd go out for lunch. He said, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, sir, I tell you, my heart went out to you yesterday. When you started sharing this story about your daughter marrying this guy and losing it to cancer and leg being amputated, I said, I don't know how you survived that. I said, my experience when people go through tragedy, one of two things happen. Number one, they either turn very bitter and angry toward God. If God's a God of love, how could he allow this? Or they say, man, there's no way I can get through all this tragedy. I've got to look to God and say, God, you got to help me through this. Without your source, I can't make it. I was just curious. What was your reaction? And all of a sudden, this guy began to open up about his spiritual life, and I had a chance to share him about a relationship with the Lord, and all of a sudden, he's wanting to meet with his kids and all this stuff. We just had a great time, and all of a sudden, I've been there for 2 hours. I said, man, I'm sorry, I need to go. I didn't mean to take the time. He said, wait a minute. You said there were 2 things. I said, but I've already spent 2 hours on the first one. He said, listen, I'll take all day. You're my kind of guy. I need to listen from you. I said, well, I don't think you're happy at what you're doing. I'm in the process of expanding my business, and I started sharing the opportunity. He looks across the table. He says, I tell you what I'll do. If you'll hire me, I'll quit my job today. Now, folks, why? Now, the reason I share that story, why would he say that? Did I put this heavy-duty recruiting? I gave him a very short recruiting speech. But all of a sudden, he saw was that I cared about him, that I saw across him, you feel special. Because he asked me this question. He said, why would you, as a successful businessman, drive all the way across North Dallas to Garland, Texas, and take me out and buy my lunch just to share with me these things? I said, because when I was a sophomore in college, somebody cared enough to share with me about a relationship with the Lord. And then in 1978, somebody was gracious enough to share with me about this business. Both of them have changed my life. And I said, I feel indebted to a guy like you to share these things with you because I said, I see tremendous hurt and pain in your life, and I have some solutions. And see, folks, when you begin to, never, ever in our relationship were we like this. And see, all of a sudden, guess what? That opens up the market, that whole industry out there. Just learn to look at people's needs and try to meet their needs. One of the things I've always done is, folks, I love to hunt and fish and play ball. And I'm always planning fishing trips. Now, I tend to plan on sometimes during the weekdays. Why is that? Because most people can't go. And the asking is as good as the doing, right? So I'll hire guys, maybe the bass are running somewhere, the sand bass or the striper somewhere, and I'll pick a Tuesday. And I have my list of people that I have recruited or whatever. I say, Joe, hey, look, I've got a guy. It won't cost you a dime. I got all the tackle, everything. We're going to catch a jillion. Let's go. Oh, when you going? Saturday? I said, no, we're going Tuesday. Oh, man, I'm worried. I can't. Oh, that's right. You got that job. I keep forgetting. Man, we need to talk someday. Listen, hey, maybe some other time we can work it out. Maybe if you never get your boss to give you a day off. Now, I've done a lot of things. I've planted a lot of seeds that, man, he's got a sorry job. Anybody can't get a day off to go fishing, he's got a bad job, right? Then number 2, just the fact that I cared. How many times this year has someone called you and said, all expenses paid, let's go fishing, and he wasn't your boss or somebody to override you? See, these are just people. But I learned from that experiment years back when the value of investing in people's lives. That when you go out and you show people you care and want to do something for them, people respond. Asking is as good as the doing. Here's something fun to do. Learn, folks. If you want to get to parents to get to their kids, learn to invest in kids. I love sport. I love playing ball. And my kids, we always play in the front yard in the afternoons. Now, guys, if you add just a little money to the game, it changes the whole complexion. We're playing touch football, and I'll take maybe $20 out there in small bills. And all of a sudden, I'll say, hey, guys, the first really great catch I see, it's worth $5. Man, you talking about kids diving for balls? It's incredible. I say, okay, the first real good hit, it's got to be clean, $5. I mean, you've seen these 7, 8, 10-year-old kids just knocking the fire out of people. If it's basketball, it's, who makes the best pass or whatever. Now, these kids, all of a sudden, they go home, and they're showing their parents, man, the Tuttle's the greatest guy in the world. Why? People say, well, I don't have money. We're not talking about much money. You didn't blow that much money in a theater. I had a parent one time call and said, I feel bad. My son came home with all this money. I said, he deserves it. You should have seen the catch he made. Willie Mays has never made a catch that good. I said, I had to decide tonight if I want to go and waste money on a movie or have fun in the front yard. And I said, we had more fun, and I just put a little money on the game, and your son made a great catch. Now, do you think I'd have a hard time getting an appointment to those parents? I write notes to those parents, look for reasons to contact me. Look at the report cards. Look in the list when people get the report cards. Write that kid congratulation notes. My son is in the 7th grade, my youngest son. And I've gotten to know a lot of little girls in his grade. And this year there were about 50 girls to try out for the high school, in the 7th grade basketball team, girl team. And I knew about 10 of these girls were about to die over making that. I'm on a hunting trip in West Texas and made a long-distance call that night to every one of them that made the team and congratulated them. Now, am I trying to recruit these little 7-year-olds? No, but I know they have parents, and I know to stay in the right markets, and I know this. I found out from doing an experiment the joy of making people, those little girls, like, here's this adult making a long-distance phone. How does he even know I tried out for a team? How does he know I made the team? They were so excited. Those parents, I've seen them since basketball. Every parent has come up to me and said, Mr. Tuttle, boy, we want to thank you for calling our daughter. You don't know what that did for our daughter to get that phone call that night. Now, folks, this is so much fun, this stuff I'm sharing with you, and it all just easy stuff to do. We do a turkey shoot every year, but it's a father-son, father-daughter turkey shoot. We have it at our house at Thanksgiving morning. We put up some turkeys. I get trophies for every age level. We get little 22s, get about 5 firing lines, the little bitty kids. I mean, we'll have them there 3 years old. Dad has to hold the gun for them. They get, just a few yards away. If they hit anything, we give them a ribbon. If they get the highest score for 3-0, we give them this big trophy, take pictures. Then we do then we start moving them back as they get older. Then we let the dad shoot. Then we take the combination of the highest score, dad and the son, or dad and daughter, and give them a smoked turkey and a giant trophy, take pictures. Then I personally write a letter to every person that comes and send the pictures to their kids with a personal note. Now, I have a base job writing no, but I guarantee you, it ain't because my roster's not full, because I know that I got to be planting seeds everywhere I go. Let me recommend a book to you I recently found called The Friendship Factor. The Friendship Factor. It was in my office there at the house. I got all these books. I don't know if I bought this one. Somebody sent it to me. I don't know how long it's been on my shelf. Don't know where it came from. One day I picked it up. It's by Alan McGinnis. And it talks a lot about things, and a lot of practical things here. Here's a practical tip it gives in here. When's the best time to send a thank you note after you've been to somebody's house to eat a meal? When's the best time you've heard somebody give a great talk? Most of us do it immediately, right? That's a good time to do it. But he says, if you really want to have an impact, why not wait a couple months? Then write Miss Jones. Miss Jones, I was just thinking. I was sitting eating tonight, and I thought back that meal that you had us over for 2 months ago, and that really had to be one of the greatest meals. See, it's kind of, people expect to know maybe if you just they fed you or something. But if you get another note 2 months down, they say, I still remember that note. Or, Mr. Palmieri, I still remember that particular talk you gave at such and such, and I remember that point. In other words, what's so wrong about making people feel good? Finding something, I like you. I like your work ethics. I like your attitude. What's wrong with that? Affirmation merely for the sake of making another person happy can be a most pleasant activity. That's what I've been talking about all day. Doing things that make other people happy. Let me illustrate with an incident from Dale Carnegie's own history. I love this story. Said, I'm waiting in a line to register a letter at the post office at 33rd Street and 8th Avenue in New York. I look at the registry clerk who was bored with his job. Can you imagine working at the post office all your life? I can imagine being bored. He's weighing envelopes, handing out stamps, making change, issuing receipts, the same monotonous grind year after year. So I say to myself, this is Dale Carnegie speaking, I'm going to try to make this chap like me. That's going to be tough, right? Obviously, to make him like me, I must say something nice, not about myself, but about him. So I ask myself, what is there about this guy that I can honestly admire? That's a hard question sometimes. What can I do to make this guy feel good about? Sometimes it's a hard question to answer, especially with strangers, but in this case, it happened to be easy. I instantly saw something I admired to no end. So while he was weighing my envelope, I remarked with enthusiasm, I certainly wished I had your head of hair. He looked up half startled, his face beaming with smiles. Well, it isn't as good as it used to be, he said modestly. I assured him, though, that although it might have lost some of its pristine glory, nevertheless, it was still magnificent. He was immensely pleased. We carried on a pleasant conversation. The last thing he said to me was, many people have admired my hair. Now, folks, I guarantee that guy does his monotonous job every day, and nobody ever gives him the time of day. And all this guy did was show a little interest, say, hey, you're special. You got great hair. Now, here's the kicker. He said, I told this story once in public, and a man asked me afterwards, what did you want to get out of him? Does that question annoy you as much as it does me? What do you want to get out of him? He responds, what was I trying to get out of him? What was I trying to get out of him? What do you mean? If we're so completely selfish that we can't radiate a little happiness and pass a bit of honest appreciation without trying to screw something out of the other person in return, we should meet with the failure we so richly deserve. Now listen to this. Oh, yes, I did want something out of that chap, and I wanted something priceless. And I got it. I got the feeling that I had done something for him without him being able to do anything whatever in return for me. That is a feeling that glows and sings in your memory long after the incident has passed. Boy, when I read that, I thought, this guy's on the right track. This guy just loves to invest in people. People always say, why do you do these things, Mike? Rusty Crossland, Rhett Randall, Brett Waller, we were just down in Mexico on our annual hunt the other day. We go up in this little village, and I took probably a couple $100 cash, took a Polaroid camera. And we go up there that day, there's maybe 3 little Mexican kids out. And all of a sudden, I start getting the word out. And we're having foot races for money. We're having throwing contests for money, jumping contests for money. Any contest they can think of for money. And all of a sudden, here comes the kids. Next thing, there's probably 7 or 8 kids. Next day we come, folks, we're 2 hours of dirt road up to this village. There's probably 150 kids in the middle of the day waiting on us. They're with their school books. I guess they just all cut school. I don't know what they do. They're there. And they think, why is that? They don't know me. They don't speak English. And Lord knows I don't speak Spanish. But all it is radiated is someone has said, hey, kids, I like you. Y'all are special. And I'll demonstrate that because I'm going to give out a couple $100 to kids I've never seen before just because I see you live in this little dirty, infested village up here and you have nothing. And I just want to say, hey, somebody loves you and I want to give something to you. And you see the old women in the village coming out because I have Polaroid camera. Most of them have never had a picture in their life. And we're taking pictures and they're lining up having their picture after picture after picture. Why are you trying to get nothing, as this guy says, other than the great joy of seeing bringing some sunshine on people's face. But I tell you what, if we ever do open up Mexico, I'm in like Flint down there, I guarantee you that, right? I can run for governor or president anywhere down there and win in that country. We have spread so much sunshine down there. But it's fun when you're able to give and you know there's nothing you can get in return. Now, folks, this is all conceptual stuff we've talked about here. It's all very simple stuff, but it all started back in my own case of saying, I don't like cold calling. And I learned I had to meet with people and deal with people. And I had to learn the way to make people, how to develop relationships with them. And then, fortunately for me, I found that experiment. And when I did it, folks, and I recorded the response, it changed my life forever. And to this day, there's never a day in my life that passes that I am not looking for any opportunity that I can recognize someone, do something for somebody, offer to do something, offer my whatever assets I have. Here, use this, use mine. And what I found in return as a result, I've never get no's, and I've never had to make cold calls. I hope this time's been worthwhile for you. Thank you.